Okay, so the season 4 finale of From just aired, and I have not slept properly since. Not because it was terrifying. Well, it was terrifying, but mainly because the writers just detonated a bomb in the middle of everything we thought we understood about this town, walked away calmly, and said, "See you in season 5. The bottle tree is gone. The talismans are stolen. Fatima is a monster. And the only thing standing between the residents of Fromville and total annihilation is a bag of dead children's bones that nobody knows how to use." So today we are going deep. We are talking about every major question that Season 5 absolutely has to answer before this show wraps up for good. Because yes, it is official. From has been renewed for a 5th and final season. This is it, the endgame. And there are a lot of loose threads that need tying up. For anyone who is new here, From is a sci-fi horror series on MGM+, and it follows a group of people who get trapped in a small town they cannot escape. At night, creatures come out and hunt them. Nobody knows how they got there. Nobody knows how to leave. And with each season, the mystery gets deeper, the mythology gets wilder, and the stakes get higher. The show just wrapped its 4th season on June 28th, 2026, and Season 5 is now in pre-production up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, with a target premiere somewhere in 2027. The creators have confirmed that 5 seasons was always the plan. No dragging out, no fan vote extensions. They are finishing the story they always intended to tell. So let us talk about what that story still needs to resolve. Let's start with the most immediate threat sitting right in the middle of town. The man in yellow has been walking around Fromville disguised as Sophia, a young woman who actually died in the township some time ago. The residents have no idea. Elgin figured it out. He found a photograph of the real Sophia. And then Sophia killed him before he could tell a single person. That is the show doing what the show does best, which is putting the answer right in front of the characters and then snatching it away in the most devastating way possible. Now, only one character inside the town knows the truth, and that is Clara. But Clara is not going to say anything because she is working for the man in yellow. So the question going into Season 5 is simple. Who breaks through the disguise? My money is on Henry. Here's why. The man in yellow spent years inside Henry's head, poisoning his mind, making him see things that were not there, nearly driving him to kill his own son Victor. If anyone is going to recognize the specific psychological fingerprints of Sophia's behavior and connect it to those years of torment, it is the man who lived through it. That reveal, when it finally lands, needs to be earned. And Henry earning, it would be one of the most satisfying payoffs this show could deliver. The Season 4 finale gave us the clearest picture yet of what these two entities actually are. In the final 2 minutes of the episode, the boy in white and Sophia, who is the man in yellow in disguise, come face to face in the woods. He tells her they have the bones. She tells him the bottle tree is gone. He says, "You are going to lose this time." She replies, "I guess we'll see." And then she dumps all the stolen talismans into the faraway tree and walks away. That exchange confirms these two are locked in some kind of eternal contest, and the town is the game board. It is giving very strong Jacob versus the man in black vibes from Lost, which is not a coincidence given that Jeff Pinkner, one of From showrunners, also worked on Lost. But we still have no idea where either of these beings came from or why this conflict started in the first place. There is a fan theory circulating right now that the boy in white might actually be one of the Angui children. Think about it. He has looked like a child for at least the past 4 decades. He cannot intervene directly the way the man in yellow can. He can only leave clues, only guide, only nudge. That sounds less like a god with limited interest and more like a child with limited power who is trying to fight back against something that is much stronger than him. If that theory is correct, it reframes the entire dynamic of this show in a way that would hit hard in a final season. This one is personal. Fatima's transformation in the Season 4 finale was one of the most heartbreaking things this show has ever done. She tricked into drinking the man in yellow's blood earlier in the season, which accelerated changes that were already happening after she gave birth to the creature known as Smiley. By the time the finale rolled around, she had no choice. She stayed behind in the tunnels, embraced what she was becoming, screamed at the other creatures to hold them back, and told Ellis to go. To remember her as she was. Ellis had to be physically dragged away by Boyd. It was devastating. But here's the thing that makes her situation different from every other monster in that town. Those monsters, as we learned back in Season 3, were once people who made a deal. They killed their own children in exchange for immortality. Fatima never made any such deal. She did not choose this. She was manipulated into it. That difference in the rules of how she got there might mean the rules of how she gets out are also different. If the children are freed and the cycle is broken, is it possible she reverts? The show has to address this. Leaving Fatima permanently as a monster while everyone else goes home will be the cruelest possible ending for that character. And From is a cruel show. So honestly, nothing is off the table. In Season 4, Episode 9, Tabitha realizes something important. The symbol on the talisman is actually a depiction of her and Jade. Not symbolic, literal. It is them, which means those talismans were made with full knowledge of who these two specific people are and what role they were going to play. That is a significant piece of information. But it raises an even bigger question, which is who made them in the first place. The most obvious candidates are Tabitha and Jade themselves, from a previous life they no longer remember. These two have been reincarnated over and over again, always circling back to this town, always carrying pieces of a past they cannot fully access. It is entirely possible that in an earlier cycle, one or both of them created the talismans as a tool for whoever came after them. Another candidate is the boy in white, given what we now know about him actively working to help the residents. He may have had a hand in creating the protection those talismans provided. Season 5 needs to answer this, because it also directly connects to a question that nobody has addressed yet, which is whether Boyd finding those talismans in the first place was actually an accident or whether it was engineered. Julie Matthews can travel through time. She cannot change anything she observes. She's what Ethan described as a story walker. And after a few difficult attempts in the first half of Season 4, she abandoned it entirely. The rest of the season passed without her using it once. That bothers me a lot. You do not introduce time travel into your mythology, show your protagonist failing at it a couple of times, and then just drop it. That is not how storytelling works. There has to be a reason Julie has this ability that goes beyond what she has already done with it. Here is what I think is interesting. There's a photograph in this show, a Polaroid, the one that got Elgin killed. And some fans have pointed out that when you look closely at that photo, you can see what appears to be Julie standing near Sophia before the Matthews family ever arrived in Fromville. If that is correct, then Julie did not just try story walking and fail. She already went somewhere that mattered, and the show has not shown us that journey yet. That is not a dropped storyline. That is a setup. Season 5 has to deliver on it. This one goes all the way back to Season 1, Episode 1. Ethan has a storybook. In that book, there's a place called the Lake of Tears. It was mentioned once, and then mostly forgotten for 3 seasons. Then in Season 4, Jim reappears and tells Ethan the Lake of Tears is real and that he needs to find it. Ethan goes looking. He checks the Brundles, the lake where Ellis and Fatima took Julie. He checks the lake near the settlement. Neither one is it. So where is it? One theory that has been bouncing around the fandom for a while now is that the Lake of Tears is not a physical body of water at all. It might be a metaphysical space, something that exists within the mythology of the town rather than on a map you can walk to. And there is a darker theory building on Boyd's Season 1 vision of Abby trapped inside a giant spider web deep in the forest. What if the souls of people who die in Fromville do not just disappear? What if they end up in the Lake of Tears? Jim, Abby, Father Catry, all of them somehow held in that space, which would also explain why Jim keeps appearing to characters even after his death. This has been a thread since Episode 1. It cannot be ignored in the final season. After the bottle tree comes out of the ground, the sky does something nobody expected. Red lightning starts shooting out of the caves and into the clouds above Fromville. The sky that was daylight minutes earlier suddenly drops into darkness. The rules everyone knew about daytime being safe are gone. The creatures are out in the open when they were never supposed to be. And the red lightning is just sitting up there, crackling and doing something, but nobody knows what. The most surface-level reading is that pulling the bottle tree broke some kind of natural barrier or spell, and the lightning is the visible consequence of that break. But From does not usually do things just for atmosphere. There is usually a layer underneath. The more interesting theory is that the red lightning is not a symptom. It is a signal. Something down in those caves was being sealed by the bottle tree. And now that it is gone, whatever was locked inside is beginning to surface. The show gave us killer dolls this season as a hint that the nightmare creatures in Fromville are tied to the psychological fears of the residents. Red lightning coming out of a cave sounds less like weather and more like something waking up. This is the biggest question of all. The boy in white is optimistic. He told Sophia that this time they're going to lose. And his optimism is based on one specific thing. The residents now have the children's bones. But having the bones and knowing how to use them are two completely different problems. They got the bones out of the caves, yes. But Jade already admitted in the finale that he lied about the bones protecting them from the creatures. He has no idea what the bones actually do. Neither does anyone else. So even if this cycle ends, what does ending actually look like? Does everyone just wake up outside the town with no explanation? Does something in the mythology physically break? And here is the darker version of that question. If the cycle ends and the children are freed, what happens to the town itself? One theory the showrunners have actually addressed is that the people who get drawn into Fromville are always at a crossroads in their lives. They are pulled in by the cries of the children. If the children are freed and stop crying, nobody new gets pulled in. The cycle ends. But does that mean the town dissolves? Do the creatures disappear? Does the man in yellow lose his hold on this place entirely? And what about Fatima, still somewhere in those tunnels? Does the end of the cycle bring her back? These are not separate questions. They are all connected, and the answer to one will ripple through all of them. Here's where we're standing right now. The bottle tree is gone. The talismans have been stolen. The sky has turned hostile. Sophia is still walking around town with a bag full of stolen protection, and nobody knows who she really is. Fatima is somewhere in the dark. Elgin is dead, and the bones of the Angui children are sitting in a bag that the surviving residents are holding like a grenade with no instructions. Season 5 is confirmed. Production begins later this year in Halifax. And based on everything the showrunners have said publicly, the ending has always been planned. John Griffin said 5 seasons was the design from the beginning. Jeff Pinkner said questions will be answered and answers will be questioned. That is either incredibly reassuring or a very polite warning that From is going to do exactly what it has always done, which is hand you something that looks like hope and then immediately make it much more complicated. I have been watching this show since it launched in 2022, and it has earned my trust more consistently than almost any mystery box show I can think of. It does not feel like a show that is making things up as it goes. It feels like a show that knows exactly where it is going and has been leaving breadcrumbs from episode 1. The Lake of Tears was in a storybook in the pilot. The reincarnations were being hinted at in season 1. Julie's storywalking feels like it has a purpose we have not seen yet. If season 5 delivers on all of this, it has a real shot at being one of the most satisfying endings in genre television. If it is not, well, we will have plenty to talk about. Either way, I will see you back here when that premiere day drops.